Happy Easter! We celebrate the second Sunday of Easter, which we call the Sunday of the Divine Mercy. And when we think about the Divine Mercy, we think about the devotion to the Divine Mercy. We think about the novena that usually starts on Good Friday and ends on this Sunday. And we think about the famous painting of the Jesus that is there with the exposed heart, with those white and red rays coming out of the heart, that represents what we understand as the divine mercy. But beyond devotion and beautiful paintings, we're invited this Sunday to understand what the divine mercy is about and what we mean when we say that God is merciful. We say that God is merciful because mercy is part of the identity of God, something that defines the God that we all believe in. And we are his children, his creation. And as their children, we inherit mercy. And we're invited to exercise mercy in our lives. Many of us confuse our relationship to God and the identity of God. And we believe that somehow God somewhere is keeping a scoreboard of each of us, adding points and deducting points. And we have to devise a strategy to be in the good side and to earn points with God. But the reality is that we don't have that control. God is in charge, and that we cannot control how much God loves us. God loves us regardless. God loves us immensely. And the love that God has for us does not depend on what we do, what we say. So we might think that we earned or deserve with our efforts God's love, but it's basically our concepts of black and white and justice that kind of mess up our minds and our hearts a little bit. Because sometimes we believe that what we understand as justice is what is the justice of God. But the truth is that the justice of God is mercy. The way that God exercises justice is through mercy. Mercy always gives us two things. It gives us love and it gives us life. And he's infinite, abundant, always available. God takes everything that lacks love and converts it into loving. And God takes everything that lacks life and makes it filled with life, abundant, including ourselves. There are two elements that traditionally were considered as sources of life for ancient Israel. One of them was water. The other one was blood. Water, of course, it makes sense. We need water. Plants need water to be alive, to, grow crops and things like that. Animals need water too. The other one, blood, because they were observing that when somebody is bled out, lose their life. So that's partly why they were prohibiting us to consume the blood of animals, because they didn't want us to consume their life, because they thought that the blood itself contained the life of animal beings. So when in the first letter of John, it says that Jesus came by means of water and blood, that means that he said, and then later says that he came not only with water, but with water and blood. We're talking about Jesus coming with life to give life. So it's like not only Jesus came with life, but he came to give life. And that's the image that we can understand a bit better, that portrait of the divine mercy when we have the heart and the rays of white and red, white by water, red by blood. So that's what it flows from his heart, life. Therefore, when we talk about the divine mercy, we talk about abundant life and love available to all of us. That's his mercy. So, the reason why Jesus came to this world to save us, the reason why we celebrate Easter is his mercy, is because he came to bring the God of love and the God of life to this world. That's salvation. His love and his life are salvation. So, in that context, we want to get into the gospel. And we have the famous episode of one of my favorites, Thomas. Thomas have a bad reputation of being an unbeliever or incredulous. But Thomas was brave. At one point, he wanted to die for Jesus, right? But we remember this episode really well. He was away. Jesus came to his disciples, and he was not there. And when the disciples told him that they had an encounter with Jesus, he said, unless I put my finger into his wound and my hand into his side, I won't believe. Later on, Jesus comes over, returns, and he has this famous phrase where, which he greets his disciples. Peace be with you. Those words are very meaningful. They are healing, they're consoling, they're life-giving. Peace be with you. He had a lot of love for his disciples and for Thomas. And he says, Thomas, come over. Put your finger in my wound. Put your hand in my side and believe. Thomas believed right there. He needed a bit more than others, but he had a moment of humbleness, and he said these famous words, my Lord and my God. And Jesus was able to transform him from a incredulous non-believer to a believer by his mercy, by his love, by his life-giving presence. And that's basically what he's offering to all of us. When we believe, when we are a bit doubtful and we don't believe, God comes to us and he says to us, peace be with you. Come. Try and believe. Will we be able to allow ourselves to be touched by the mercy of God? Will we be able to put aside the scoreboard that we, in our imagination, keep track of the things that adds or takes out value from us? Will we be able to understand his justice and put aside the idea that we deserve or we don't deserve the mercy of God, the love of God, the life that God is offering us? This is the moment, if we put aside those things, that we will allow God to work with us, to transform us, to change us, to give us love, to give us life, all those things that he offers, which is his mercy. How difficult sometimes is for us to believe that God forgive us our faults. How difficult is for us to believe that he can love us as we are, that he accepts us as we are. How difficult could be to believe that he forgive us our sins, that he doesn't measure how many failures we had in our life, how many times we fail him and his love, but he measures the amount of docility that we have towards him, how much openness we have towards him, or how much we allow him to work with us and transform our lives for the better. But he's there for us, and he invites us to imitate him in the same way. So we are children of God. Therefore, we are children of mercy, and we are invited to exercise mercy, which is not the same as saying empathy or compassion or altruism. Empathy, which means to be able to put ourselves in the place of other person and to feel their suffering, to feel their happiness. Compassion, which is looking at the suffering and being moved to help them. Altruism is just like giving out material things to help others. But mercy is completely different, because mercy, the way that God exercised mercy, is putting aside that we deserve the place that we are and helping us anyway. So we put aside the offense, we put aside the sin, we put aside the failure and the reason why they fail, and we help them anyway. And we love them anyway. And we forgive them anyway. In other words, it's easy to be altruistic, to have empathy, to be compassionate, but not to be merciful. Because we have to put aside the feelings of, this is not fair that I help him because he doesn't deserve it. This is not fair that I forgive him because he doesn't deserve it. I'm doing it anyway. That means that we decide to put love where there is hate. We decide to put life where there is death, because we're children of God. So in this Sunday of the Divine Mercy, we are called to believe in a merciful God and to be his children. We are called to mercy. May God bless you all, and let us be saints.